Welcome to the AECI Plant Health Podcast, where we have conversations that help you unlock nature's potential.
Ons vind vandag meer uit oor die GHS klassifikasiestelsel, dis dalk beter bekend as GHS. Nou, almal van ons is bekommerd oor ons omgewing en die skade wat verskeie chemikalieë en in landbou se geval onkruiddoders aan die omgewing rig, en daar is gelukkig 'n stelsel in plek wat hopelik hierdie sal beheer. Ons gesels met Gavin Smit. Hy is tegniese adviseur by AECI Plant Health. Gavin, ja, goeiemôre. Dankie vir jou tyd vandag. Presies wat is GHS of die GHS klassifikasiestelsel net in 'n neutedop?
Ja, goeiemôre Lisa en baie dankie vir die geleentheid om hierdie, ek dink 'n baie breedwerpige onderwerp wat nou plaasvind in Suid-Afrika. En ek dink is belangrik dat vir die luisteraars daar buite net so vlugtig 'n inleiding te gee wat dit alles behels. So omdat ek nou in Natal bly, ek gaan so 'n bietjie oorswaai na Engels toe, hierdie kant van die Boereworsgordyn, en die ouens 'n bietjie geleentheid gee om 'n bietjie in Engels te hoor.
Jy's welkom, gaan voort.
So yeah, in a nutshell, global GHS classification stands for the Global Harmonized System Classification. It's a fairly simplistic term, and there's a lot more explanation that can be coupled to that. But really what it does, it comprises a global standardization platform or a policy whereby all participating countries have agreed to adhere to the manner in which all products, whether it be air fresheners, toothpastes, Marmite, even Mrs. Ball's chutney, highlight all the ingredients and ensure that all of these ingredients abide by the GHS classification criteria. And this allows for the safe handling, transportation, manufacturing, and ultimately the consumption to the end user.
Gavin, is daar net sekere lande wat deel is van hierdie klassifikasiestelsel?
There are currently about 70 countries that are involved in this GHS classification system. It's continually expanding as countries are becoming more and more involved and engaged in the system. Within each country, they do actually have a choice to which classification criteria they abide by. But by adopting into the actual GHS system, a country's global reach is more accessible, and therefore it negates any sort of need to continually adhere to the countries or policies where the products are actually being exported to.
Gavin, maar watse bestanddele vorm deel van hierdie stelsel?
Yeah, Liz, interesting question. Basically, every ingredient in a product comes under the spotlight. So whether terms that you're familiar with things like MSG and all the little E numbers that one is familiar with on all product labels and things like that. So all of them actually that comprise the makeup of the product, whether it's the actual active ingredient or the actual inert substances that compose of that finished product, are deemed part of those ingredients. And obviously in our sector, this certainly applies to the agricultural sector, that the agrochemicals, the fertilizers, animal feeds, veterinary products, and so forth. So briefly, each ingredient is then classified into its chemical composition and falls into three categories, namely whether it's carcinogenic, mutagenic, or reproductive. And it doesn't just necessarily mean it has to fall into either one of those categories. It could be that it falls into two or even three of those categories.
Sjoe, dit klink vir my na 'n komplekse storie en baie. Jy het nou gesê daar is 70 of wat lande wat deel is van hierdie klassifikasiestelsel. Nou, ons het verskillende, as ek dit kan noem, bestanddele. Ons praat verskillende tale, ons lees verskillend. Hoe is dit geïmplementeer? Is daar enigsins eenvormigheid?
Yes, Lisa, and I think that South Africa and a number of the associations and bodies that are currently in South Africa play a very important role in ensuring that South Africa stays relevant, stays current, and that our access to global markets is sustained. So particularly in AECI, and for that matter, all manufacturers really in the country, particularly that pertains to the agricultural sector, are guided by CropLife, which is headed by Dr. Gerard van Duin and his team. So they are basically the governing body in South Africa, which ensures that South Africa adheres to the GHS classification. They are, however, involved in so much more than just this aspect, and they are definitely there to ensure that South Africa remains inclusive of all global practices and standards. So in short, how they ensure that is the use of pictograms is becoming a lot more prevalent, and that negates the need for different languages and minimizes the error or interpretation of what is currently on the written labels.
Gavin, ons wil nou met jou gesels oor die voordele. Nou ek het genoem in my inleiding dat ons is maar bekommerd oor die omgewing en die skade wat chemikalieë aan die omgewing doen, maar ek is seker daar's 'n paar ander voordele van hierdie stelsel. Wat is dit?
Yeah, absolutely, Liz. And I think with the current global focus on the environment and the need for testing of products in a safe manner, whether it be on animals, trees, we all share the same planet. So manufacturers are becoming so much more attentive to what is required and as less impactful as what needs be. So besides just the animal testing, we're not having to reinvent the wheel to continue with all this laboratory testing that has been done in the past. That being one of the key aspects. But another quicker aspect, and I think that it's just clear in our minds as to vaccines and that have been developed through COVID as well, is the quicker access to markets for the manufacturers, as they already have the recipes as to what they are permitted to use. So in that aspect, it's safe for the environment. So we have to negate less need for testing. And it also encourages the manufacturers to explore new and innovative alternatives to addressing current diseases and pests and problems that we currently face in the agricultural sector, and gives us access to other countries' intellectual property and their innovative research. So basically it streamlines and allows for safer and more innovative products to become accessible to the end user and provide solutions in a much safer and more responsible manner.
Gavin Smit, tegniese adviseur by AECI Plant Health, wat vandag met ons gesels het oor die GHS of GHS klassifikasiestelsel. En as jy met AECI wil gesels, besoek gerus hulle webtuiste www.aeciph.com. Daai PH staan vir Plant Health. www.aeciph.com.
Another production from Solid Gold Podcasts.